Hello and welcome. In today's video, I'll be going over 10 manga, giving a brief summary and going into what I liked and what I didn't like. Then if the series is still ongoing and whether I would continue it or not. Finally, giving it a 1 out of 10 rating as well. Keep in mind, a 1 for me could be a 10 for you. So ultimately, go read and check out these mangas for yourself. I just find and share what I read. Hopefully this becomes more of a series where it's your guys' recommendations, but if not, there's still plenty of manga to read in the meantime. So without further ado, thank you for watching. Now on to the video. The first manga I'll be talking about is I Am a Hero. Praised as the greatest zombie manga of all time, I Am a Hero follows the story of Hideo Suzuki, a manga assistant aspiring to make his next big break. But unfortunately for him, his biggest enemy is himself, often hallucinating various things or scenarios that aren't grounded in the real world. But the line begins to blur when he witnesses a woman getting hit by a car and getting right back up. Not being sure if it's real or fake, he goes home and tries to sleep it off. The next day, while heading to his monthly gun club practice, he decides to stop by his girlfriend's house when she attacks him out of nowhere. She has been turned into a zombie, launching Hideo right in the middle of a zombie outbreak. From there, we follow his journey of survival and meeting various people along the way. But in the end, it's a story of how Hideo truly became a hero. Now for the manga, there are two main things I really enjoyed. First and foremost would be the art. There are some absolutely stunning and breathtaking panels. Without spoiling it, I'll show two. The first is a widespread panel in a forest, and the second is a widespread panel in a church. Just the attention to detail is insane and quite impressive, especially when I realized the author was producing this quality week to week. The other thing I really enjoyed, and take this statement with a grain of salt, is the realism. Like for instance, the attention to detail and the importance of maintaining guns, with it showing the explanation for how a gun works and how to properly shoot it. Lots of stories and even real life media kind of just breeze through that, where people just have a magic amount of bullets. But in this manga, I feel the author did a great job not making Hideo just instantly overpowered. Even though there was an extreme amount of luck and plot armor to give him the gun right away, I can't help but appreciate it. Now for the things I didn't really enjoy. I feel even though the art was amazing, the story itself was kind of all over the place. At least for me, at times it felt like a slog reading through it, where for instance not a lot of things would happen for multiple chapters or even volumes at some points, but then boom, tons of action in a short succession. I'll also say the ending itself wasn't all that spectacular and it kind of falls flat on its face. It's more about the journey than the destination in this manga. I'll also say you might have a hard time enjoying the manga because of Hideo as a character himself, along with the choices and actions he takes regarding a certain character, but I'll leave it at that and let you decide for yourself. Overall, this manga is complete at 265 chapters, and there are 2 spin-offs as well. But with everything considered, in my personal rating, I would give this manga a 6 out of 10. Miss Regular Wants to Enjoy Herself is your typical slice-of-life rom-com story. It follows the story of our main character, Izumi, a university student who works part-time at the Son Goku manga cafe, going through the motions of a regular 9 to 5. That is, until a certain customer starts showing up, a high school girl named Hanami, who, let's just say, really enjoys her time at this cafe. It's through these daily interactions that the two grow closer, learning more about each other as the days go by, and eventually introducing some other characters to spice up their dynamic. Initially reading this manga, the first volume is mostly, let's just say, spicy interactions. But as the story continues on, it goes in the complete opposite direction, for the most part becoming more wholesome, and at some points quite funny. For instance, on chapter 17, while Honami is paying for a room at the cafe, another manga cafe's card pops out of her wallet, and it's like she's just been caught cheating. This at least gave me a chuckle anyway. Other than that, the side characters are good as well, with Honami's childhood friend being a tan tomboy, and Izumi's friend being a mature mother-like figure who's also the store manager. But all in all, there's nothing really bad about this manga, and nothing that really stands out to make it stellar. The art and the character designs are good, but the story mostly follows the same formula when it comes to this genre of manga, just in a different setting. This manga is still ongoing at 39 chapters, and I'll probably continue reading it, just not week to week, and I would give it a solid 5 out of 10 as of right now. Life in the Demon Land is a manga that has a lot of untapped potential. It is an isekai reincarnation story, but not really at the same time. Let me explain. The story follows Makio, who, by the way, doesn't have a name until about halfway through the story, but he was a failed adventurer who got into gambling and women, and he lost all his money. Down on his luck, he resorts to the last thing he could think of, which is being a farmer. After all, he is the son of one. All he needs is land, and then he can make a fresh new start. But unfortunately for him, like the real world, land is expensive, except for a plot of land located in the Demon Land. And having nothing to lose and everything to gain, He takes this opportunity for 5 gold pieces. We follow Makio's journey from there, learning the secrets of the land and encountering various women who happen to stumble upon it, eventually forming into one big happy family. Now, there were some aspects of the story that I did enjoy. As I mentioned before, it is an isekai story, but not in the typical sense. We get brief flashes of Makio's past, but it seems like he can't really remember anything. There's also an overarching mystery that other people from his world have inhabited the land before him. Another interesting aspect is also the magic and world building system, using materials that the Demon Land has to offer in order to progress and become stronger, like making a powerful axe out of sap. But unfortunately, none of that really comes to fruition. The story was incredibly rushed in almost every aspect. From the fights, characters, and power scaling, it seems like the story was supposed to go on for a lot longer, but it probably got axed and given a chapter limit. At least that's my guess. But the story is complete at 15 chapters, and there is a slight possibility it could get a continuation, or this is a part 1, but that's unlikely. I'd rate this story a 3 out of 10. Renge and Naruto, like cooking, is a mixture of a bunch of things in one. It's a rom-com, slice of life, cooking manga with a gyru sprinkled in for extra flavor. But even with a good recipe, it's all about how it's executed. That is what determines whether or not it's a good dish, or in this case, a good manga. The story follows our main character Shinji, a young man troubled by the daily hassles of adulthood. The only peace he's able to find is at his favorite Chinese restaurant, the Mirakuken, where a sweet old lady took care of him at one of his lowest moments. It's been a few months since then, and Shinji's feeling a bit sad and nostalgic, so he decided to stop by the restaurant and check in on the old lady, only to find to his absolute shock the restaurant was completely changed. And even worse, the old lady passed away, and in her place is a gyru girl named Renge, who's completely changed the restaurant menu and can't even get his order right. But despite that, she can cook. Throughout the story, we get the duo interacting and building up not only the menu of the restaurant, but each other as well, along with a third wheel who has her own unique dreams and aspirations. The manga overall is a blend of spicy interactions mixed in with cooking, and sometimes even recipes. Its art style is more unique, and I think that's due to the author's background of being an adult manga artist, which directly bleeds into the work as a whole. But I believe this is the author's first safe-for-work manga. I can't really say the story is that amazing, but it's not that bad either. It really follows a cookie-cutter format, mainly a spicy interaction that has a tie-in to a dish that's being made. I will say it can have its wholesome moments as well, but I think most people aren't coming to this manga for cooking recipes. I'd also like to add that the art style is a little rough at first, but it does get better as it goes on. Renge is the best drawn character, and the others don't get as much love. And at least to me, some of the food is also drawn way better than some of the characters. But despite that, the story is still ongoing at 21 chapters. They just introduced a new character in a beach episode, but I probably won't be keeping up with this manga, at least not week to week. Once it's completed or nearing its end, I'll binge it. I'd rate this manga, at least for right now, a solid 4. If you made it this far into the video, you rock. And as a thanks, I'm going to be giving you my favorite manga out of this bunch. And that manga is Headhunted to Another World, from Salaryman to Big 4. This is a unique and fresh take on the isekai genre. Normally in an isekai story, the character is brought to a world and is instantly overpowered and gets a harem of women. But in this story, it's a little different. Our main character, Denosuke Uchimaru, was a salaryman that was unfortunately run over by a granny on a scooter, and when he awoke, he was summoned to another world. But the one who summoned him was the world's demon lord, and the reason Uchimaru was summoned was because he was a great negotiator. Because of this unique skill, Uchimaru was immediately granted the position of being one of the 4 heavenly kings. We follow his journey of being one of the 4 heavenly kings and serving the demon lord, growing close to his fellow co-workers and making tons of friends along the way, discovering the worth and value of himself that everyone around him sees. Now, there's a lot of things I like about this manga. The art style is really good with great and unique character designs. The way Uchimaru approaches situations is quite fresh. Since he's essentially a diplomat, he has to use his brain instead of brawn. There is action in this story as well, you just don't really see him fighting. It's more of him coming up with a plan and the people around him executing it. The comedy is quite good as well, and the story doesn't really linger on any arc for too long. Each arc kind of focuses on his relationship with one of the 4 heavenly kings. But Uchimaru's main squeeze, or ride or die, is Urmunder, who is the strongest out of the 4 heavenly kings. It's also really nice just to see him progress as a whole. Without spoiling anything, he doesn't get instantly strong, or problems are solved in an instant. It takes time, and there's a nice gradual progression as he slowly comes into his own. And here's the best thing about this manga. There's an anime out now with 3 episodes, so give that a look as well. I'm definitely going to be keeping up with this manga week to week, and probably the same for the anime as well. At the time of writing this, I thought it would be out later like in the summer, but seeing it out now, I'm going to have to binge it to catch up. Also, the manga series is still ongoing, with 10 volumes and 68 chapters translated to English. It's not fully translated yet, but I think with the anime things will probably pick back up again. But with all that out of the way, my rating for this manga is an 8, but probably closer to a 9. It's just a very fun read, and as long as the ending is good, I'll probably stay close to that rating. Sherry's Love is 8 meters tall is a larger-than-life romance manga. See what I did there? These puns just keep rolling. Anyway, the story follows our main character Yumeji, your regular typical high school student. After not seeing his childhood friend Sherry since grade school, he was elated to hear that she was transferring to his high school. One small problem though, since the last time Yumeji has seen Sherry, she has grown 8 meters tall. That's about 26 feet in total length. As a result of him being close to her previously, he has been assigned by the government to be her caretaker, aka her helper, and he has to help Sherry in anything and everything that she needs. We follow the duo's newfound dynamic and adjustment as they both learn to come to terms with this new unique circumstance. Initially, I only read this manga because it was, whoa, big guy relating, but I stayed because it's actually one of the best romance mangas I've read. I'd also say, out of all the manga that I'm talking about today, this probably hands down has the best art style. Starting out, it was already pretty good, but the further the story went, the art style just got more condensed and refined. Comedy-wise, it was pretty funny as well. Each chapter was something different and it never really got dull or repetitive. Turns out, there's a lot of different jokes and scenarios you can use with giant ladies. Who knew? Then all of the side characters were quite enjoyable and funny as well. And again, all drawn very nicely. Story-wise, it's gonna follow pretty much any other rom-com manga out there, just with the difference being an 8 meter tall girlfriend, along with a few crazy things sprinkled in, but I won't spoil that. This manga will be finished or completed on January 26. With its last chapter, it puts the total number at 63. I will be reading that when it comes out as well, and I will probably have to rate this manga a 7 or an 8. We'll see how the ending goes, but I thoroughly enjoyed myself while reading this. A lot more than I thought I would. And you know what? Thinking about it, we'll go an 8 rating for this manga. 8 for 8 meters. Why not? Failure Frame, I became the strongest and annihilated everything with low-level spells. Kinda says a lot of what will happen just in the title. The story follows our main character Toka, a high school student who, along with his other classmates, was summoned to another world by its goddess, Vicious. But unfortunately for Toka, he was the only E-rank hero in his entire class, meaning he was useless to the goddess and she didn't need him. So what does she decide to do? She decides to send him to a dungeon to die and never be seen again. But luckily for Toka, while trying to survive this dungeon, he discovers his special abilities he got from being a hero. And those special abilities are all status effects, specifically sleep, paralysis, and poison. After learning how to properly utilize them, he becomes incredibly strong, and sets out to take his revenge on the goddess who summoned him to this world. From there, we follow Toka as he meets other people and forms his own adventure party, all while gaining immense strength and power. I'd say this manga follows isekai and power fantasies to a T. He gets incredibly strong super fast and starts building a harem. It's kind of edgy for edgy's sake, but it does have its good moments. Like for instance, without spoiling anything, there is a fight that takes place between Toka and the strongest guy in the world, or humanity's strongest, and all I'll say is that it was actually pretty hype. Also, with some isekais, there's side characters that can present interesting concepts as well, and I think Failure Frame does a good job with that as well. There's one S-rank hero who decides to help all the lower C and D rank heroes, or the ones that the goddess would abandon and dispose of, but because this S-rank hero is going against the goddess, she's being punished for it and has to work harder. And I just found that to be an interesting side story and dynamic. But is this story really anything to write home about? No. But should you give it a shot if you're bored? I'd say yes. You might actually find yourself entertained and invested. Now, originally this series started as a light novel, which is now complete. But as far as the manga goes, it's still ongoing at 56 chapters. There's also an anime as well if that's more your speed. Will I be keeping up to date with this week to week? Probably not. Am I planning to finish it? Definitely. I'm even considering reading the light novel as well, and I'm definitely going to be watching the anime when I have nothing else to do. With all things considered, I'd probably give this series a 5 out of 10. It's really what you expect for this genre, which I can't really complain since I enjoy isekais. Maria's Judgment is probably the most messed up manga on this list today. It follows the story of Nagare Mari, a mother who loved her son Kiritaka more than anything in this world. But she noticed that her son has been acting strange and down lately, especially on the day that should matter the most. his birthday. He came home battered and bruised, but he brushes it off and goes to bed. Then while in bed, Kiritaka gets a video message from one of his bullies, and it's his mom Mari in an explicit video. So he's forced to go to an observatory and he has two choices to make: spread the video of his mom or jump off a cliff. Kiritaka chooses the latter and miraculously survives. But that's very, very short-lived and he gets decimated by a truck. Did I forget to mention that Mari tracked her son there only to witness this happen? After some time passes, Mari discovers her son's diary and reads all the horrible things that happened to him. She also discovers all the bullies who did this to him. So Mari comes to the only logical conclusion she can think of: they all deserve judgment. So with that, she divorces her husband and completely transforms her body through plastic surgery, infiltrates the school the bullies are at, and becomes its nurse. And she plans to eliminate each bully one by one in order to get her revenge. As far as unique stories go, I think this one is more up there. I haven't read too many mangas where, for one, the main character is a parent, and two, they're a killer hellbent on revenge. So the series definitely gets points for that. The art style is quite nice as well, nothing stellar, but definitely nothing bad to look at either. And the way Mari enacts her revenge is also quite interesting and unique. In a lot of ways, she's kind of like Saw, punishing the bullies the same way they are known for bullying. I will say the story is really ridiculous, with the amount of evil things these high schoolers are able to get away with. Like there's the head honcho super elite bully, who basically runs the whole town and he can get away with whatever he wants. Like beating his father or stabbing his mother. Nothing is really explained in this manga either, and you have to throw away any air of disbelief you might have, and just enjoy the ride. I will say though, that I enjoy the concept of the toll revenge takes on Mari as a whole, and she just gets crazier and crazier as time goes on, which definitely makes the manga more entertaining to read. I would say think of this manga as a B or even C tier movie. If you enjoy those, you'll definitely enjoy this manga. The manga is still ongoing currently with 39 chapters. I definitely don't see myself picking up the story again anytime soon. It is nearing its conclusion, but if you're up to date with the latest chapter, you know how crazy and stupid it is right now. It is fun, don't get me wrong, but definitely not a 10 out of 10. I'd have to rate this manga a 4 out of 10. A Girl Who Is Too Honest Despite Her Kyoto Dialect is a manga that I don't even know if you could really qualify as a manga. I think it falls under the lines of a webcomic. But despite this, I sometimes enjoy stories like these, where I can binge through it and appreciate the good art. The story is pretty bare bones. It's about a guy named Harui, and he meets a girl named Anna. After she dropped her handkerchief, he returned it to her. Hearing how she talks with her Kyoto accent, he mistakes her for something called a Makio girl. Now, I could be wrong, but from my quick 5-minute Google search, that's basically a geisha girl or an entertainer girl, one who would sing or talk to you and pour you drinks. Which in Japan, I believe Kyoto is the hotspot, or has tons of history involving these types of girls. The way I can explain this manga maybe better is basically imagine this. You help a random girl off the street. Unrealistic, I know, but hear me out. After talking to her, you can't help but hear she has a prim and proper accent, something akin to what you would imagine a princess would talk like, or how some people view the British accent, eloquent and proper. But then you hear her in this voice saying very brash and rude things, breaking your immersion and dispelling the magic. We follow Harui as he navigates this new relationship with Anna as he dates her. This is a super short comic so far with about 20 pages total in about 8 chapters. Judging by how this author does other stories, I don't think this comic series will be that long either. But the main takeaway is the art of Anna and the concept as a whole. For me, this is the type of series you just binge in like 10 minutes and then forget about it until you read another series just like it. Again, to reiterate, I just like to mention or bring attention to these series from time to time. And I mean, it was either this or reading Mashal, and I wanted this video to come out this week, so I had to read a super quick series. But all in all, I would not keep up with this manga, and I doubt I'll remember to look this up to finish it. So with that, this series gets a 2 or a 3. And again, the lower scaling doesn't mean it's bad necessarily, it's just compared to all the other series I read, this one was super low. Last but definitely not least on this list is the delivery destination Onee-san is Too Scary. The story is in the title, but it follows a delivery driver who arrives at the destination to deliver food, but when he opens the door, he sees this quote-unquote big scary goth lady who looks intimidating to our main character. So in order to calm himself down, he does what any sane person does and watches his favorite VTuber. But alas, he is interrupted and has to make the same delivery to the same place. But this time, right before he leaves, the scary goth lady tells him thank you. And lo and behold, it's the same exact voice as his favorite VTuber. From there, we follow our main character getting paid to hang out essentially with his favorite VTuber. The reason behind this is she has extreme social anxiety, so she pays him to talk to her. As a result of them hanging out, the two not only grow closer, but build each other up as well. Now, there are two main reasons I wanted to talk about this series. First and foremost, this is just a good wholesome series with nicely drawn characters, and I am a fan of VTubers and mangas about them. But secondly, I would dare say even more importantly, the series has gone from a webcomic to an official manga being published and translated. Also, apparently, while I was writing this script for the video, I checked the author's Twitter, and the name of this series is actually My Favorite VTuber is Scary IRL, which makes a lot of sense for a title name as well. But I wanted to add this series and shine some light on it. I've kept up to date with this manga since it first came out, and it makes me very happy to see how well it's doing. I'll probably be checking into this manga about once a month. It all really depends on how many chapters the author releases, but currently there's at least 9 official and legit English translated chapters. There's 14 total if you look in the right places. Even though there's not a lot to this series, I can't help but enjoy it. Don't look down on me with what I'm gonna rate this manga. Call it bias or whatever you want, but it's my channel and ratings after all. So with that being said, I would have to rate this manga a 7, leaning closer to a 6. There's just a lot of marks this manga hits for me. Please don't lose faith in my ratings and reviews as a whole, okay? And speaking of ratings and reviews, what did you guys think? Did I judge the mangas accordingly, or was I too harsh? Or not harsh enough? Let me know in the comments below. Also, send me mangas you would like me to rate and review as well. Already, you can expect in next week's, or however quickly I can put this series out, 2 upcoming mangas. The goal will be at least 10, but for now, the 2 are going to be Mashle, Muscle, and Magic, and Ghost Pictures. As always, thank you for watching. I've been Boog the Goob. Peace!